Amelia Womack, Deputy Leader of the Green Party of England and Wales. Amelia, fracking, people are jumping up and down saying now we cannot morally continue to buy any gas from Russia, albeit it's only 4%, but 4% is 4%. That's very important revenue going into Putin's coffers, some of which no doubt is being used to arm his illegal war in Ukraine. So do we not have to think the unthinkable and go to the fracking option?
I mean, fracking just simply is not the answer. And even if the environmental concerns weren't there and the public opposition was ignored, then the UK Energy Research Centre, which is the UK's leading independent energy academics, have already said that it's unlikely to be of sufficient scale to significantly reduce the UK's import dependence or even have a significant impact on UK prices. I mean, the disadvantages of fracking have been clear, whether that has been earthquakes or air pollution or the fact that methane is a climate change gas, which is far more impactful than carbon itself. We need to be reducing our carbon emissions, not increasing them, and that's why it's essential.
But Amelia, we can't do that in the next few weeks. We can't. What we're going to do is slaughter every single cow that's belching into the atmosphere. I mean, it's just not sustainable. We need something now, so we are no longer giving Putin any money.
I mean, as your previous speaker said, we're not going to be able to open fracking sites now. But what we can put in place more rapidly is wind, solar, renewables. And nobody has power over the wind the way that Putin has power over oil supplies. Yeah, it seems like an important point in our history to be removing us away from the geopolitics that has created our energy prices to be, not be working for people, to be creating people into this cyclical feature of volatile fossil fuel markets.
Yeah, but what about the volatility of the wind, Amelia? It didn't do as much good last year. It was one of the least windy years, which meant those great wind turbines up and down the country were not operating. They were not delivering any energy.
And that's why it's important to have that diverse energy mix. Wind, solar, tidal. The tidal lagoon in Swansea had the opportunity to really change our energy mix here in Wales and across the UK. Obviously, tides are predictable, and it means that by having that mix, we are able to make that change happen. In Scotland, we've seen huge investment in onshore wind. And if David Cameron's ban on onshore wind hadn't happened in the UK, then actually we would have already moved away from a lot of the problems that we have right now. On top of that, if we'd invested in things like, instead of installing 1.7 million gas boilers, we'd installed 1.8 million heat pumps. Again, we would have been moving away from a need for Russian import.
Yeah, but families can't afford heat pumps, Amelia. They cost £10,000 or £11,000.
Sorry, the UK government. If the UK government provided those grants,
where's that money coming from?
Oh, the gas boiler work that the government did. You'll have to ask them.
Right, so you say the government should have paid for all our heat pumps?
Yes, yeah.
Can I just ask you on the war, Amelia, are you still comfortable with the Green Party policy that Britain should withdraw from NATO?
That's a long-term ambition, and at this point it's a very different conversation, and it's about how we prioritise peace and peacemaking and how we ensure that we are working internationally on a collaborative and diplomatic basis. So at this point, that policy is not where we stand because we are in a different point.
How long is the long term?
Well, in politics, I always think a vision is important. And so having a long-term vision, as you probably know, that we put our policies in place for the long-term vision. If that's created in 10, 20, 30, 100 years, whatever that may be. And our manifestos are the stepping stones to get there. And you know what? On doorsteps across this country, what I hear people saying is that people want a vision from politicians. So people want a vision of a more energy efficient world, of a Green New Deal that means that we are tackling some of these biggest issues of our time. Vision.
Okay, all right, Amelia, just have to move on. That's Amelia Womack, Deputy Leader of the Green Party of England and Wales. I don't think many people on the doorstep there are saying we agree with that long-term ambition to lead NATO. Let's get another side of the argument about fracking. Lorraine Allanson is a long-time campaigner. Lorraine, it's been fabulously successful in the United States, fracking. We know that. But they have huge thousands of miles of open terrain and land where it's easy to frack without any disruption to homes and without causing minor earthquakes, which is what's happened when we've tried fracking in Britain.
Well, you have to realise that people seem to think that you have one well pad with one well on. You actually do multiple wells on one well pad, and you can spread those out. So you can put them away from homes as much as possible, and they drill out horizontally below, rather like the spokes of a wheel. So it's very deep down. It's nowhere near the water table. And they talk about earthquakes. There were minor tremors. And actually, if they measured fracking in the same way that they do other industries, which is by peak particle velocity, the earthquake the tremor that they caused over in Lancashire was only half the level permitted by such as construction, mining, quarrying. So they were on a very tight and restricted way of trying to produce shale gas, and it was absolutely ludicrous. I'm very interested in what the Green Party are always saying. It's full of sound bites, how, the wind and sun is free and it's marvellous. It's inconsistent, it's unreliable. And if you have unreliables, you have to have a full-scale backup system. So you're running two systems, basically, and gas is perfect because it's a really good swing into production source of energy. You know, you soon crank it up and you've got a backup going because the wind and sun are very unpredictable. They also say about, saving the environment. Yet they're very happy to cover it with solar panels made by slave labour in China and filled with minerals that are mined by children in the Congo. It's all right saying, it's clean and green. It has its very dirty secrets, and the Green Party don't admit that.
Lorraine, the issue, isn't it, currently, we're all horrified to think that any of our gas that's coming into our homes could be anywhere near Putin and his coffers and his money and his cronies and his oligarchs, and is any of our money indirectly going to bankroll this wicked war in Ukraine? But to frack, even there were fracking sites identified by the government, all delayed, all postponed, not least because a lot of those fracking sites were in marginal seats which the Conservative Party wanted to win or hold. How quickly could fracking result in people's homes being powered by this form of energy?
Well, it'll certainly take a little while because you've got to...
What's a little while?
Well, you've got to appraise the source below the surface, the reservoir below the surface. So you've got to drill several wells to then test them. But I would think within a year or so you could probably get fracking. I mean, they've got a well near me that was drilled for shale, and they've got two over at Lancashire. And the Oil and Gas Authority are trying to get them to plug and abandon those wells. It's absolutely madness. I live in the Vale of Pickering. It's a huge gas reserve. And we actually have 8 well pads here and a gas-powered generating station. You don't know they're there. They're surrounded by trees. They're hidden. Unlike wind turbines and solar, which are unreliable, you can see those all over the countryside. And the other thing that the Greens don't appreciate is we need not only energy security, but food security. But yet they're very happy to plaster our good agricultural land with solar panels and wind turbines. And they also, need roads and transport, because they complain about the trucks for well sites, but absolutely everything's going to use trucks for the construction. I mean, it's utter madness that we are not providing our own shale gas from under our feet and relying on other countries to supply us. It's too volatile, and it's far worse for the planet. Importing, because it's higher CO2 emissions. I mean, she actually said to Amelia Womack, everything locally. But she doesn't want local gas. She's quite happy to import it. And if she was, pushed into a corner, she would have to admit we're going to use gas for decades. Yeah. It isn't as simple as just using lovely little twirly wind turbines and solar panels. And also they talk about tidal power. I read something the other day, now I can't say whether it's right or not, but it said they can only produce 14 hours of the day. I'm not sure whether that's right or not, but that struck me because I thought, everybody always says that it's 24 hours a day. But perhaps that isn't. Perhaps that's unreliable as well.
All right, Lorraine, you've made a very powerful case. That's Lorraine Allanson, pro-fracking campaign. Well, over to you. We've got this crisis in our energy because Europe is still heavily on talking about the energy crisis, which is going to get much worse here, not least because of the price is soaring on the international markets. Oil at an all-time high, gas at an all-time high. So should we consider fracking? It was on the table before. There were 100 licenses had been awarded by David Cameron's government. That was allowing firms to pursue a range of oil and gas exploration activities in certain areas, particularly in northern England, and Lancashire, of course, was a popular spot for it. And Vincent, by great tint of coincidence, is calling from Accrington in Lancashire. Vincent, hello. Were you in favour of the countryside being opened up where you were for fracking?
Hello, Andrew. It wouldn't really affect Accrington because our geology is not really suitable. Ours is more a coal mining area. But I would like to raise the point that all the people that claim we should build more renewables to provide our energy, they don't really understand the amount of gas that we use. There are government charts available, gas flow charts. And if you look on the government sites, they give you a very good indication of how much gas is being used over the years. And gas produces 80% of the energy that we use for electricity and heating of homes. And in 2020, there was only 8.1% of our energy was produced by renewables. Now, this renewable energy is variable. So what you've got to do, you've got to have either diesel or gas turbines backing this up. So visualise a situation where to go completely renewable, we've got to build another 92% of renewables to supply electrical energy to the whole of the country. Then visualise building all the network to provide this, rewiring most of the houses, putting heat pumps on them, storage heaters in houses, providing electricity for all the electric vehicles, and for the government and people to claim that they can do this by 2030 or 35 is very misleading. It will cost billions of pounds and probably more like 100 years to achieve.
All right, Vincent.
So we need gas. We're going to need it.
All right, Vincent, I hear that.